Welcome back everyone to the Audacious Money Witch channel where we talk about investing and trading and a lot of fun things. I was wrong. Adobe stock is an attractive buy. Here is why I started buying Adobe stock. Adobe has reached undervaluation and its recent dip is a golden opportunity for us to start accumulating. I was wrong to say Adobe was just an AI hype. Here is why. Adobe's growth plan is to keep expanding its addressable market. In 2019, they said that they expected their addressable market to be $128 billion by 2022. So, in short words, Adobe's strategy is to keep innovating and staying as one of the industry leaders. They may do this via M&As like the one they attempted with Figma, or directly launching more products to expand its addressable market. Proof of this is what Adobe CEO said in 2022. Our strategy is to empower everyone to imagine and express their ideas, create the world's best content and applications, and power personalized digital experiences represents a massive market opportunity that will drive Adobe's next decade of growth. Now, concerning upcoming products, Adobe hasn't announced anything of that caliber. Until now, Adobe has focused on improving their existing products by adding new functions. The last one was Adobe's Photoshop Elements 2024 and Premiere Elements 2024. This update includes such things as matching colors, UI improvement, selecting a photo or background with a one-click, new effects, etc. How does Adobe compare against peers? How wide is Adobe's moat? Adobe is by far the largest player in the graphic software market. Adobe's Photoshop has 41.74% of the market, followed by Adobe InDesign with 26.13% and Adobe Illustrator with 12.24%. If we sum all this up, we get that Adobe's market share in this market is a massive 80%. As you can see, the second largest competitor here is Canva, which specializes in simple graphic design that users can make with pre-existing models or from scratch. Then its setup was bought by Google in 2006 and later sold to Timble in 2012. This software specializes in 3D design. Nevertheless, those software are not at the level of Adobe because they have different target audience. Figma is the real competitor here since the collaborative design segment. It concentrates around 38.60% of the market. This software centers on the design of user experience and UI user interface, as well as supporting vector design. Furthermore, Figma appears to be cheaper than Adobe since Adobe's Creative Cloud costs $59.99 per month. Meanwhile, Figma's cheapest plan costs $13.03 per month. I searched for opinions on Figma and Adobe XD, and it looks like Figma is the favorite one because Figma autosaves changes. He likes how it autosaves. Okay. You want to be photoshopped? No. It releases more features per year than XD. It's more organized, etc. These opinions guide us to the conclusion that Figma is now the reference in the industry. Lastly, I think that in the near term, users will opt for a mix of Adobe and Figma because Adobe's wide range of offerings like Premiere Pro and advanced video editing that Figma doesn't offer. However, Adobe needs to improve its XD software, and I am sure that they will. Since they acknowledge that Figma can become a formidable competitor, which is the reason why they tried to buy it for $20 billion. Industry outlook: Adobe is part of the creator economy. For 2023 to 2027, the creator economy is expected to grow at an annual rate of 10 to 22.5% and reach a valuation of $480 billion by 2027. As previously said in 2019, they said that they expected their addressable market to be $128 billion by 2022. After that date, Adobe has not released a similar report. The worldwide online advertising market is expected to reach a valuation of $257.97 billion in 2024. and $431.76 billion in 2029. This means that since 2022, Adobe's addressable market will have been increasing by 33.91% until 2029. Headwinds: the industry is dependent on advertising spending, which, if it's cut, can lead to Adobe subscriptions being canceled. Nevertheless, it's expected that for 2024, advertising spending will remain solid. This means the industry with no current headwinds. The major risk now is inside the industry, since its nature as a light capital market is the cause of why many competitors can appear. Financials in Q1 2024, Adobe beat estimates. More specifically, EPS was $4.48, 10 cents higher than the consensus, and revenue was $5.18 billion, 30 million higher than consensus. Oh, you like that, Ted? Oh, yeah. Nevertheless, the stock slumped because Q2 revenue outlook came out at $5.25 billion, which was lower than the expected $5.31 billion. Nevertheless, EPS estimates came almost in line, since the company anticipates 4.35 to 4.40, which is close to the estimate 4.37. Now the net operating margin stands at 29.95%. The balance sheet continues to be in excellent condition. Cash reserves $6.82 billion. Meanwhile, long-term debt $3.6 billion and short-term debt $1.94 billion. This signals that a portion of the long-term debt has matured. However, now comes something concerning. Free cash flow decreased from $6.35 billion to $5.22 billion, which is a 17.79% contraction. Valuation: I will value Adobe through a DCF model, 22.5% subscriber growth, and first step is predicting pricing. Adobe Creative Cloud started at $50 per month when launched in 2012. Since then, the price has been increasing by 1.81% annually until today's $59.99 per month. Therefore, I will imply throughout the projection that Adobe will continue to increase its pricing at 1.81% annually. The second aspect is Adobe's customer base. Since 2014, revenue has been growing at 40.81% annually, which indicates that there has been a growth in the customer base over the years. In 2017, Adobe had around 12 million subscribers, and it's estimated that at the end of 2023, Adobe had around 33 million subscribers. This is a huge 29.16% annual growth in the user base since 2017. However, for 2024 to 2029, I will use a 22.5 growth rate, which is in line with the expected growth of the creator economy, and 9.16% lower than the historical growth rate of Adobe's user base. Finally, the net income will be calculated using the 2017 to 2023 net income margin average, which is around 29.24%. Adobe's net income margin peak was in 2020, when this margin touched the 40.88% mark with the help of a 1.08 billion tax credit. Adobe's tax rate currently sits at 20.16%. What is the risk to my thesis? The main risk currently is sentiment, which is directly driven by the fact that Figma is now a competitor and that many people rate it as better than Adobe XD. This is putting a downward force on Adobe stock. Nevertheless, Adobe has 3 years in which it can report lower than expected estimates. This helps in giving the company time to improve its software so it can compete with Figma. Furthermore, this should have been seen coming because the industry software is very light on capital, which makes it easy for entrepreneurs to start in this sector without worrying much about funding. I don't see any other major risks since software, as previously said, is very light on capital, which means that Adobe will not have trouble financing its main activity. This same reason makes it also difficult for Adobe to damage its net income margin. For this, the company would need to make several wrong decisions. In conclusion, Adobe currently offers a huge opportunity to capitalize on pessimism that followed the slight miss in the Q2 2024 forecast. According to my model, Adobe has a 34.2% upside if it adjusts to the fair price of $660.81. In my assessment of how Figma will affect Adobe's business, I concluded that it will take Figma some time to catch Adobe in what concerns the variety of its software, which will buy Adobe some time to improve Adobe XD and become a formidable competitor to Figma. I am sure Adobe will be fine since the norm in the software industry has been the ease of competitors to appear due to it being light on capital.
Today's announcement is huge. We all know the world's information is in PDF. There are trillions of PDFs out there. We have a new AI assistant. And so you can have a conversational interface with the PDF. Just imagine you've opened a 100-page document. You want to understand the summary. You want to have a conversation with it. You want to ask questions. You want to correlate that with other documents that you might have.
A little time constraint. So I went in, I used chat to get the summary, which we do now. What could I do if does it not, or does it respond to any kind of summary? In that I want very much to use it as a jumping off point to do something of my own.
That's exactly what you can do, Jim. Okay. So you open up a PDF with an Acrobat or Reader, and you can just click on a single button which says, give me a summary, and it'll give you all the summary. It'll point back in that document to where that information was gleaned from.
Fantastic.
But in addition to that, you can ask questions. So if you wanted to compare how Walmart's earnings were this quarter versus the prior quarter, or I heard you talk about their advertising, and you say, tell me more about where they're making money on advertising. I liked your concept of found money. That's the kind of conversation that you can have with PDF.
OpenAI last week announces Sora, and the market view is like, well, this is right there impeding on Adobe's turf.
First, we're working on our video models as well. We worked on our imaging models. I think magic happens, Scott, when it's not just the model, but how that gets integrated and reflected in the interfaces that people are using. When you think about people who are going to be creating videos, I think there are two use cases. The first is, in order to start the ideation process, maybe you're going to take something with a text prompt, create a piece of video, and start to play with it. That's actually the small part of the process. It's then what do you do with that video? How do you create the long-form video? And that's where products like Adobe Premiere Pro or Photoshop or After Effects are clearly the industry standard. So we will do not just the foundation model. We'll not only do what Sora did with Firefly so that you can start the ideation process, but its entire tools and workflows, which is where Adobe is going to focus.
Adobe has survived the 2000 dot-com bubble crash and the 2008 financial crisis crash. The stock has done tremendous for its shareholders over the decades. It will probably continue to thrive. This stock really reminds me of Netflix stock They are worth about the same market cap mostly, and they trade at similar stock prices. They are both part of the creator economy. But what makes Adobe more than Netflix is higher margins and a better balance sheet. For these reasons, I just started buying this stock.